All right, here we are. Here we are, ready to go. We shall see how we do. And there we have 3 people. 2 people. Welcome back. Let us begin. Oh yeah. So I have discovered that it is certainly Friday nights. There is a pattern, and it is that Friday nights is when the depression loves to kick in. And in the face of death, my desire is to smell the air of freedom, or the free air itself. Ha ha ha. We knew it was coming. You just ate breakfast. No, that wasn't breakfast, that was dinner. So, what I did was, I actually prepared myself and had my daily antidepressant medication in advance. And psychologically prepared myself. Hey, sahtain haniya, breakfast, bon appetito, bon appetit. And now we head off into the blackness that night has so very well prepared for us, as you on the other side of the world have our sun. Right now at night, proactive, absolutely. See, we have no choice now. The speech is tomorrow, so I'm going to go to work now in the same way that I scoped last Friday when the depression kicked in. This time I'm ready for it. I said I'm going to have my scope ready and my medication done. I had my protein bar with coconut. Dilemma time. Bus it is, my dear. Absolutely. We have a genius with his high beams on, the moron. And I know that this journey into the black brings with it beauty in the form of poetry and human solidarity. Sometimes they are both one and the same. Can you read long sentences? Yes, I have to, because Arabic has sentences that are paragraphs long. While driving, well, they're not very long on Periscope, so it's pretty easy. I just what I do is I take a glimpse of it in my head and then I read it from my head.
Please try again.
You just met one, that's lovely. I love to hear stories like that.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Why are you talking to me?
Something like tune to 95.8 FM.
I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Where's cancel? Why is this happening to me right now?
To make a phone call, press the phone pickup button. Do you want me to press the phone button for you?
Cancel.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
This is driving me crazy. Why is this happening? Absolutely agony and ecstasy.
Do you want me to press the phone button for you?
I have no idea what's going on. Finally. Anyway, yeah, the car likes to talk to me sometimes. Talking about leaving, I think they are all nuts, feel lost. Yeah, it's this they business. I have the F off button. I love that. I spoke about this in the VIP scope. I think yesterday, which the Patreon guests can have a look at. It was the 44-minute one, and I said you allow people to label you, and you play along with the game. I don't play with that shit. I don't waste my time with the definitions. I just work on persuasion. We talked about this. I feel like leaving too. Look, if you feel like leaving, then you need to leave. You need to do what you need to do. If I'm the only sane person on the left, then that'll be it. I will remain. This is where I stay. I, by nature, and am massively progressive, and will remain that way, irrespective of 99% of my crew getting infected with this regressive virus that was also in War of the Planet of the Apes. If anyone's seen it, there's that, the virus that wiped out most of humans mutated. Yeah, but you're giving fake leftists the power. See, this is what you guys have done, right? You're saying someone comes in and takes your house. So what you do is you leave your house and say, oh, I hate their house. So basically, you've just agreed with them that it's their house. And that's fine, you can do that. I'm not doing that. All these animals came into my house. It's still my freaking house. And if I'm the last one there, I'm going to fight until they all piss off. How's that? That's how I see it. They're not going to come into my freaking house and take it over and then just think that I'm going to do nothing. Screw that. I'm a true freaking left-leaning liberal, and screw all the rest of those bastards. And I'll be standing here temporarily allying with all of my beautiful brethren in the other rooms in the tent. But, no, you can't, but, I mean, this is the thing. People sit around and say, I can't do this, and the thing is, someone comes into your house with weapons and says, oh, by the way, we're taking it over. Hey, 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 the Dome Father. Rad gab, ho ho, rad, oh yeah. Alright, so, has too many holes. Well, I don't know, it's my boat. So these assholes that come in and want to keep putting holes in my boat, I'll keep fighting them and I'll sink with it. Well, yeah, when you leave and create a power vacuum, it's like, I don't vote. Last time I voted for the sex party. The sex party and the marijuana party. I'm on a boat. No, I'm driving an American car, which feels like a boat. Because voting, it's already too late. If you think that voting is what's going to do anything, that's exactly what I'm doing, my friends. Jennifer is the silent but deadly weapon. Jennifer's one of my major weapons, man. She's like the rocket launcher in my arsenal. But this is another thing about people who have a right-leaning temperament. They try to fix things, and they do a beautiful job with many domains, but when it comes to politics, they're always at the back end. So, what's important? This is great. My depression's disappeared, man, talking about this. This is awesome. But the point is, I wanted to tell everyone that depression will always come. Always. And this time I was ready for it. You know what I mean? We live in a world where, just like my family in Lebanon, ISIS are a few kilometers away. And what you can't have a world without ISIS. But you can have a world where you can defeat ISIS. They're completely two different ways of tackling the world. Anywho, people here aren't looking at the big picture. And it's funny that the autistic is telling people this. But you see, what a lot of misguided people on my side are doing, they are now planning to introduce lots of divisions of companies that have been invaded and taken over by the fake left virus into Middle America so they can employ your children. Now, why don't people see that this is happening? I don't understand. They are so behind in the game. Well, look, you're people who say the left us. I'm right here. So if you want to brand the fake left as the left and me as something else, then that's your mistake, but that's your business. Yes, people are comfortable and lazy. People would rather watch the football on a Friday night. What are you going to do? In 5 years' time, anyone who's got a 13-year-old or 14-year-old child, or let's say 17-year-old, in 5 years' time, when Google sets up multiple locations in the Midwest and Trump country, and your kids go to work there, and then after 6 months they start arguing with you, and then slowly some of them may become possessed by the zombie virus of the fake left. What are you going to do at that point? You're going to scream and cry like what keeps happening? This is the thing that pisses me off about my beautiful conservative allies, and it's always only a minority. Uruguay by then, yeah. That's the thing, it's always on the defense. So the way it's going, it's like I'm just going to be the last one in my boat sinking, writing the obituary, which will be translated into Mandarin Chinese when China gets taken over by the growing Christian minority and turn that into the new West. That's what I see happening. I don't see it going any other way. Well, there's not enough people who are interested in doing that. People just want to be left alone, but you can't be left alone. You can't keep being the self-righteous victim. Why is it a virtue to sink with the boat? Well, there's no one else trying to help. All I see is people bagging out all of Islam and calling it cancer. What does that do for anybody? Seriously. It pisses me off. I don't want to side with that. I know way too many Muslims who would die for the West. And so when I hear that shit, I can't side with it. So, you know, if it means I have to sink, then I'll sink. What am I going to do? And bear in mind, I'm the one who's had my family murdered, so I don't really get why I'm sort of the one on this side of the argument. I'm not sure. As I've said before, Islam is an archipelago. If 1.2 billion Muslims all thought in the exact same way, you would have no West, right? That type of army would wipe the floor with every single person on the planet. That's why. Well, it's a multi-layered argument. So you've got adherence to the faith and the faith itself. This is what do you want to do? So there's two options, right? Either you fight the ideology, or you realize that the mistake is not the ideology. The mistake is Western civilization. Now, how can I prove that to you? All right, let me prove it to you. If it was only Islam, then why did we have a problem with communism? Was it also the fault of communism? Well, there is no such thing as the followers, because each one is a group and each one hates the other group. So it's not that simple where people are desperate to sort of paint this army. There's only one variable you can control. You can't go out there and murder everyone who looks Sikh or Muslim or Christian Lebanese who you mistake as an Arab. You want to go do it that way like the Crusaders did? They already tried that and they failed. Even when they took over, it took them 5 crusades and they bankrupted Europe and they still lost. So if you want to win by force, it's not going to happen. What you want to do, as I said, well, that actually makes it worse when you want to count all of the 14. I don't know. I'm frustrated. So what do? That's what you do. You want to fight against Islam and bankrupt yourself? When you get rid of Islam, what's going to happen next? You're going to have the next totalitarian ideology. People are missing the point. Conservatives get stuck in the weeds. It happens every time. Happens every freaking time. You know, first it was communism and they couldn't understand. Oh yes, I must apologize to everyone here because Periscope always gives you the impression I'm talking to you personally, and I'm actually not doing that. I'm talking to the masses. I'm not talking to you guys. Yes, the problem is the self-hating West. The problem exactly is the self-hating West, because that's the part you can control, maybe. Yeah. You saw that? That was that guy, the Messianic Jew. I forget his name. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I saw that too. Right, the it takes a long time. It takes a very long time because it's the culture itself which needs to be controlled. And culture normally, almost always, is led by people who are left-leaning. And so, as Bill Maher once said, he said we, as in him, against their will are going to drag the hillbilly part of this country into the 20th century. And he meant that as a joke. You don't want to be controlled, but you are. This is the problem. I'm telling you stuff that I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm telling you what's going on. Right? The definition of words in dictionaries happened many years before Obama gets elected. There are people who plan this stuff many, many years before. And conservatives who are family orientated, they just trust that everything's okay, and they have their guns and all that stuff, and all of that's lovely. I said, but when you come to vote, it's already too late. This is why the heroes of the conservatives are not conservative. This is why the leaders of conservatives are people like Milo Yiannopoulos and Donald Trump, both of whom are Democrats. Milo Yiannopoulos has conveniently labeled himself, and brilliantly, but his temperament is not conservative in the slightest, and most of his views are left-wing. But he realizes that there is nothing more important than free speech, and so conservatives see that. We'll never see the results written about our actions. Well, that's exactly right. We are seeing the results of the actions of our ancestors to speak the converse, which is exactly dead on what you're saying. I know, now we're coming back to labeling what they are, anarchist, libertarian, all this stuff. That's not that, as much as I love what you're saying, and you're right, that's not my point. My point is that conservatives within themselves don't seem to, and this is completely normal, because as far as my understanding is psychologically of the conservative biological temperament. The conservative biological temperament is brilliant at running something which already exists. And it would have to be that way, right? Because obviously, if you are good at running something that already exists, then you don't want that thing to change because you're good at running it. That is the definition of conserving, right? And that's what makes you brilliant at being managers and policemen and firemen and the Navy and the Army and you know, proper teachers if the education system hadn't been overrun and corrupt over the last 30 years. This is your brilliance. But that brilliance, by definition, is the very same weakness which I am stating here. So when I state your weakness, we're not considered, we're patriots. Well, maybe you individually are not. But those who... There are people who are patriots who don't think in the same way. And I'm talking about a biological temperament. Yeah, that's right. I'm not exactly talking about the political temperament. I'm talking more about evaluate, refine, execute, later, rinse, repeat. Yes, that is brilliant. That is exactly, if anyone ever sees the Dome Fathers podcasts, they are exactly the opposite of mine, right? Mine are just completely chaotic. We don't know what we're talking about. This brilliance comes out sometimes. The Simon Dobe Gabbers Party in the US. No, keep me away from the Simon stuff. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get banned. Oh, man. But no, but in all fairness, that's true. It's a big tent, and we all have to love each other irrespective of how we dish out what we think. This is exactly right, yes. Yes. So, as I was saying, and you guys have heard this before, likewise. I love both of you guys also. It is a very cool family. It's a very cool, chaotic family. Hello, fun guy, welcome back. Photographer, manager, models and party. Okay, well, if you're trying to... Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, always a pleasure. Both sides too recently. Well, it's completely natural because, as we say, the real fight is between the authoritarian and the liberal. And when I say the liberal, I mean the true sense of the liberal, which is everyone here. You can be a conservative liberal, and you can be like me, a left-leaning progressive liberal. But what's important is that it is a subset of liberalism, as opposed to authoritarianism. And that's why a lot of Trump supporters don't like the Ben Shapiro's and Paul Ryans of the world, and not necessarily them in particular, but the idea of someone who wants to force their opinions upon you, whether they do it covertly or explicitly. Irrespective, we have Hillary Clinton, who was explicitly authoritarian, and we have Paul Ryan, who's a covert authoritarian. Neither one is liked by the majority of people, and that's why we're here in this tent. The whole point is that it's not easy to keep a tent upright, is it? If it was easy, then we wouldn't have to do anything. But that is why we have to fight our asses off to have this freaking civilization that was given to us, that we are throwing down the toilet with every freaking flush. It is absolutely insane. Absolutely. And that's where we agree. We have to take the high road and agree. Now, when, you know, like, I love Simon to bits. I've spoken to him personally. He's a freaking legend. But you won't find me in his scopes. Now, that's not a bad thing, because in the tent we have many rooms. So, you know, my brother is a freaking absolute conservative all the way, full blown, like every day goes to church Christian. And I'm exactly the opposite. You won't catch me in a church unless, you know, I'm studying it for cultural reasons. And yet, Gap don't kaputs. And yet, I love my brother almost more than life itself, right? And that is a perfect example of what we need. Now, there's no debating with an Islamist. And the idea of Islam is different to the adherents. So as we say, we've got Muslims just like Christians, and I'm not saying the doctrines are the same. That is not what I'm saying. As a true liberal, I recognize that there are insanely different approaches to religion, and they are almost completely unrelated. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that in Christianity, there are some Christians who are Unitarians. There are some who are Trinitarians. There are some who take the book of Genesis literally. There are some, you know, from Genesis 9:6, when a man sheds blood, by man shall his blood be shed, or something like that. Right? Someone's going to pull up the quote now. You know, there are Christians who take St. Peter's letter in the New Testament, in the Acts, literally, when women should not wear makeup or listen to music. The thing about the French is that you're not losing. You've already lost. And I've been saying this for 3 months. Right? France is already gone. Forget France. It's finished. Right? You wanna save Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary. If you keep worrying about France, you're gonna lose the rest of them. Right? Those boats have sunk. Right? So, as I was saying about adherence to the text, there are people who take the book of Revelation seriously. You know, Bishop Hugh Montefiore, who was a Jew who converted to Christianity after having an apparition of Jesus that he believes he saw, right? He became one of the highest bishops in the United Kingdom Church of England. And yet he thought that Jesus was homosexual. Now, if you say Jesus was homosexual to most Christians, you know, or other mainstream Christians, they'll lose their shit. So the point is that you can't say Christianity is this. It is not this, and it never was. Christianity, in 332, they expelled the Arians and the Gnostics and the Unitarians and every other type of Christian out of Europe. So from the beginning, it had splits. It is the same with Islam, and I keep saying this to everyone. And then what people do, the geniuses and people that I love, pull out quotes from the Quran. I know this quote, I know that quote. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I say that with love. You can't even read the language. A lot of them don't even say what you think they say. And now people are going to throw shit at me. I can see it coming. And it's more about asking people, how do you interpret this? Well, first of all, it depends on who you ask. Now, the human has a natural tendency to become biased after seeing 10 people in a row who behave a certain way. And this happens to all of us. Everything I'm yelling out, I'm yelling at myself. I'm attacking myself and criticizing myself because I know the feeling more than anyone, right? we know what's happened. The West has been seeing this for 10, 20, 30 years. This is institutionalized in us for generations since its inception. Yeah, well, so do Middle Eastern Christians. Middle Eastern Christians will tell their wife to shut their mouth when they're talking. So once again, like I said, you got to work on yourself. And what Jennifer did to me, Jennifer, I ba'abadha, we say in Arabic, like it means I'm a slave to her, but that's not what it means. It's like I worship the ground you work on in a way. Everything is a blend of culture and religion. If we're going to talk about it, we don't live in a single variable universe, and this is what people love to do, right? They'll see, like, they'll go to Dearborn, Michigan, and they'll see 90% of the people in Dearborn, Michigan look like freaks, and then they say fuck Islam, blah blah blah. Mate, I know, right, what you don't see, and what I didn't see, and what most of us don't want to see, is that for every one psycho Muslim, there are 9 Muslims who are just regular people, some of whom treat their wives like shit, some of whom bash their wives, some of whom love their wives, some of whom are bashed by their wives, right? So it is not something where you want to make them all your enemy. That is not a wise choice. The wise choice is to do what Gab is doing and comes out to his conservative brothers and sisters and the patriots and everyone, and comes out and says, pro frickin' West, I don't give a shit about your left and right leaning proclivities. If you want to commit abortion, then I'm going to argue with you till the depths of hell, but I'm not going to try to stop you from doing it any other way, right? That is the tent in which we live. What are we going to do? Destroy the whole damn tent? This is the problem which we face, and it's very easy to do that. It is easy because as humans, we lack the ability to see beyond our 4-dimensional horizon. We're so busy worried about France, we don't see that Macron, with the flick of a button, is completely raping Poland up the arse. So that is where the proper fight is. We got to stop looking behind us and look ahead. We have to save Poland. The Polish people have had enough. They have gone through Stalinism. They went through Hitler. They lost their country. They regained their country. They lost it again. They've lost almost every single thing. Their country is almost third world, right? And now Macron wants to completely bankrupt them to force them to take refugees that they don't want to take. All right, so what do? Do we sit around and keep saying Islam is this? No, we have to build institutions. We have to find Polish Americans, especially left-leaning Polish Americans, because then you will stop them from voting for Hillary in the future. They will come with you and they will listen to you, and over a year they'll get persuaded. That's how you win the argument. This is how the last month, right? How many people message me and say, I don't agree with your politics, but I support you almost to the death, right? That's exactly right. Well, what's best for the people only comes through discussion. So where's the real fight? The real fight, people underestimate what fake people can do. So at the moment it's the fake left, right? But there's no difference over time. In 1945 it was the fake right. In 2017 it's the fake left. Both sides are devils living at the edge of our tents. Okay? The only way that they get access to us is when we don't look after our tent properly. And so what are you going to do? You have two options. You can do what we tried to do in the past. I don't have confidence at all. I think the West is dead. Relying on Trump is a disaster because Trump is almost dead, right? He might live another 20 years. He might live another 5 years. But what's important is to generate 1,000 Trumps. For the conservatives, Trump is 1 in a billion. My side, true left, thank you, Ernie, true left and fake left, our job is to get as many freaks of nature as possible. He has kids. Okay. I know, this is what I mean. Like, that is as much as I love your passion, and I love Trump support. I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I love Trump supporters. I love their passion. I love their freedom of speech. And I don't agree with them on anything else, but I don't care. They're my brothers and sisters, and I will support your right to believe what you believe, even at the same time while I'm arguing with you, right? And what I'm saying is, at the moment, you're relying on someone who's basically got one foot in the grave, right? As amazing as he is to you guys and all that, and I support that, right? How many people want to kill this guy around him in your own freaking party, right? They're all a bunch of corrupt scum. And so the only way around that is to realize that we have been taking the West for granted. Yeah, that's right. Of course they fall to PC instead of PD, which is political diversity. They're not interested in PD. They just want PC. Now, the letter D, I've come to learn, is not a persuasive word. So if you use PD, it doesn't actually work. I feel people didn't have a real choice. But once again, if you're looking in 3 dimensions, it looks like Hillary does not have a choice. But what I'm saying, and I'm not doing a good job of explaining this, but I'm saying, copyright, 4D, if you look at things in 4 dimensions, the problem was not Hillary. The problem was George Bush the First. Right? Now, the problem was George Bush the First because Republicans, right, allowed him to win. The next problem was not realizing that voting for Ross Perot was going to make George Bush lose and get Bill Clinton into the office. When it comes to voting, it's already too late. Right? It's not the electric chair, it's the high chair. That's another, you can hashtag that one. It's not the electric chair, it's the high chair. In other words, you can't fix people at the death penalty. You fix them when they're babies, right? And you raise them. And the fake left knows this. And that's why they got into the schools and universities to corrupt as many people as possible. Trump is maybe helping, but believe me, as soon as Trump is gone, and whether that's in 4 years or 8 years, as soon as he's gone, you're fucked. Now, I hate swearing, but honestly, it's coming to this point where it is, you gotta think ahead, right? The fake left is already planning, and so is my side, the true left and the fake left. They're already planning on how they can rip you apart as soon as Trump is gone. And they will. The pendulum, and the pendulum, my friends, does not swing evenly. If I don't have confidence, then why am I fighting? I fight because it's in my nature to fight. I'm an activist, and I don't take shit. So when I saw that my side was getting corrupted by zombies and by a virus, then I'm going to ally with anyone who's going to freaking listen. And we're going to tear and take back this country piece by freaking piece. Of course they were planning. They were planning from the 60s. They were planning from the 60s, my friends. Does anyone ask themselves? Now, I don't agree with you guys politically, but that doesn't matter because it's the same issue here. Birth control, sex education. Where did they come from? And not just sex education, but the type of education which pisses off conservatives. That's right. You can't just look at this little dot and argue on this breadcrumb, right? When the whole freaking bread is getting eaten by all of these pigeons. Oh no, my breadcrumb. No, right? These pigeons are coming all over the bread. You need to protect not the bread, but the bread factory, my friends. Huh. Absolutely. I love what Ernie Banks just said. You fight for your grandchildren. You fight for your grandchildren. And one of the other problems is weak parenting. If you do not, I was a weak man. I was a fake leftist. I was all the way. I was as far left as you want to go, man. But I'm telling you, when I was dumped on the streets in the Middle East and had to live, and I lost 20 kilos, I tell you, I manned up pretty damn quick. And there's nothing like a hard stint in your life that can toughen you up and make you realize what we have in the West. So if you want to fix what's going on, you have to look 4-dimensionally. You have to realize that we are now living in a problem that began in the 60s. It began when the institutions started to become corrupted. And almost everyone here who's grown up in the West, if you are my age or younger, then you had a corrupt education. I had teachers in my class that, I'm telling you, just hated me. Right? That is disgusting. That is not acceptable. So, I don't know, I get frustrated because this is stuff that I've been seeing for a long time. Wilsonji is also here. All right. Where am I from? The West is in the mind, brother and sister. Who have we got here? Running for Zion. Hey, hey, hey. It's alpha being too polite. Absolutely. So for example, you know, the liberal guy, right? Someone needs to build a platform for the liberal guy. He can't just be on Brax and the Dome Father and I are old as dirt. From the Dome. I thought the Dome Father and I were the same age. Hey, Dr. John, welcome back. So you got to put everything else aside. Gabby for president. I would never get elected. Homeschooling helps to teach the truth. Proper parenting. But the thing is, you can't just teach your own kids. Why not ally? I am allying with you. That's the definition of an ally. An ally is not a friend. An ally is someone with whom you share a common cause. Very different from a friend. In fact, if you think ally, not you, but if someone conflates the ally and the friend, then that's where you're going to lose. Because most people aren't your friend, which I've come to learn. I guarantee you that I reckon you probably 99% of you people that have bad experience at school, oh yeah. Go to YouTube, go to Gabsmacked, and see my speeches on autism. I said resistance. Yeah, you said ally with the resistance. I am allied with the resistance. I dare say I'm probably leading part of the resistance. But I don't have to agree with people here on anything, and that's fine. I'm not looking to agree. I'm looking at maintaining our tent so that we can stay alive for another generation, so that we can keep having our arguments. All right? So this is, you know, we're either... No, this is correct. And that's why so many people are flocking to this scope when they're seeing a liberal talking the truth. Formal school should be an adjunct to parenting. Yeah, but see, this is the thing we talk about. Absolutely, absolutely. Others can't, kind of scary for us. It's weird that other people can't see it. I find that very weird, and I say that with love. I mean, I see you guys say a lot of things actually that I don't see. How many here is liberals? Probably not that many, I'd say. One. Miss Karsh is a liberal. Two of us. Two liberals. A lot of it has to do with culture. Mike Cernovich, with whom I don't agree on anything, except one thing. Actually, I agree with him on one thing. Maybe. I don't think so. I have to go, but what I suggest, it's this idea of not speaking the truth. It doesn't come from political... I'm going to block your comments for a sec, sorry. I'm just going to hide the chat because there's so many questions coming through, and I have to say this point and I have to go. This is how we think on the left. We think, what can we do today that's going to influence culture to influence 100,000 people? We don't think educating one child or two children. That's how conservatives work. Now, that has an advantage. Conservatives are geniuses when it comes to running stuff that already runs. But they are not good at expanding, at thinking outside the box. That is completely natural and understandable. And liberals are good at thinking outside the box, which makes them shit at running things. That's why anything liberals run for a while goes into the ground. I'm talking from experience, right? I'm hopeless at running stuff, which I didn't know, right? So the point is that what you got to do is go against your nature and set up institutions like what Cernovich does with his MAGA meetups. Every single day, you guys have to work out what organization are we going to set up today. Now, if you need liberals to help you, then do that, right? Because that's how we think. We think like this, right? And I had this problem when I worked as a volunteer in Christian charities, right? Everyone in there was a conservative, and they pissed me off to no end because the conservatives were brilliant at running a charity, but they couldn't get funding. They couldn't figure out how to expand their business revenue, you know, and all those type of things. So, as I said, what you got to do is set up organizations, and that's all you do every day. And even if you have 5 members, if every one of you gets 5 members, 5 to the power of 5, I don't even know what that is. That's freaking huge, right? I don't actually know what that is, but it's like got like 6 zeros or 7 zeros behind it. So that's what I wanted to say to you guys. Let me bring the chat back. All right. So what you need to do is build the culture, and you have to get out of your way. 3125. So for example, 53125. Thanks. So for example, right, why the people on my scope, where do I find them? Right now, a lot of people have been brilliant. 90% of you have come here, from all different places that I haven't controlled. But the people I know who are on this scope are people I specifically target as those who represent the future. So, for example, Helen. Yeah, and believe it or not, like Helen, for example, is a 17-year-old Middle Eastern Christian girl living in Australia. Now, that is someone you want on your side. And I go out of my way to do these things. I went out of my way to find any Christian Middle Eastern churches who were teaching the language so I could go and to those places and find people. That was my plan. Now, people might think, oh, how far ahead did he think? Well, it worked, didn't it? And it took me 2 months of calling and then setting up and building the relationship. And I told you on YouTube, the science of making friends. If you see, I figured out how to do that, and I talked about it on YouTube. So that's what you do. That's how you know I'm a liberal. And I'm talking temperamentally, not politically. Temperamentally, I'm a liberal. Because you thought I wanted to learn Syriac. That was just a bonus, my dear. My plan is to build an army. And that's why I do things like that. How convenient that I happen to find this regular church, you see? And this is what I'm saying. You got to think fourth dimensionally. And now you're one of my biggest allies. So now you see how my brain thinks. And that is why I'm sharing that with all my brothers and sisters here. That's how you got to think. I've recruited now Helen, and she's like a warrior, man, all the way till the end. And these are the people we want, because she's 17 and she's going to educate all her friends. That's right. You see, that's how you fight. You got to learn from the liberals some things, right? We can do some things well. And recruiting people is one of them. So that's what you guys have got to do. You got to get into all of the Middle Eastern Christian churches. You just look them up on Google, you call them up and you say you want to go. You take your kids there, you build a friendship with someone. Jennifer's a genius. She went and joined Muslims for Trump. And, in the next couple of weeks, she's going to tell us about some friends that she might have made. Maybe not. But it's an opportunity. You keep creating opportunities, because success is where #opportunity meets readiness. Success is where opportunity meets readiness. Okay? From friendly guy. Hello. So that's the plan, and this is what we're doing. This is why my plan was to get this book out. My book is a pro-West book. It's about autism and suicide and everything else, but it is about loving the West. That's what happens. It is a whole journey about this guy who didn't know anything. Exactly. You go to Middle Eastern churches and you can't get too Islam heavy. You just have to say, I love the West and I love your culture, and together we want to celebrate your culture. And you don't have to bring up Islam, because if you love your culture, nothing else can get in. Okay? I used to say as a kid, ما حدا في يدخل بيتك إلا ما تفتح له الباب, right? As we say in Lebanese. So it's no one can come into your house unless you open to them the door. You should be skeptic. Absolutely. I don't want anyone to listen and believe. Right? So the problem is the West opening their doors. And if you want to keep your doors regulated, you have to keep all of your family looking after the doors, so that some child doesn't just open a door for anyone who knocks. All right? So, like I said, you have to, and now I'm just repeating myself and I have to go to work. But you have to, what was I going to say? You call up the Middle Eastern churches, and a lot of them don't get frustrated, because 90%, of course you can, 90% of people aren't going to listen to you, right? That's fine. It's only the 10% that you need, which goes against your nature. That's exactly right. You need to go to Sikh temples. One of you calls up a Sikh temple and says, you know, I am an American, you're an American, I want to learn more about you. So for example, Jennifer subscribed to Muslims for Trump. Someone else should subscribe to Sikhs for Trump, right? If you're conservative. If you're like me and you're a liberal, then you just do what I do, which is I just call up churches and find people and go and learn, and this is what I do, right? And it's the same thing. Any of you who's a real liberal and who's brave enough, you call up the mosques and you go there. And it takes a long time. It takes 10 years at least to build the culture. So you got to think 10 years in advance. You've got to get the culture to the point where your allegiance, right? Your allegiance of the Sikhs, the Muslims for Trump, the, you know, your true liberals like me, all of us together, right? Over the next 10 years can build a culture. With Helen will be 27 by then. She'll start educating 17, 18-year-olds. You'll build an unstoppable tsunami for that love the West. And then you don't have to worry about whether it's Trump or bump or dump or whatever it is. You won't have to give a damn, because all of you will show up to the polls and wipe the floor with any of these fake leftist scumbags. And I'm going to leave you with that because I really have to go. But it was absolute pleasure to see you guys. And all of you tonight just got gab smacked. And it's a pleasure because I learn a lot from you guys too. All right, keep working, guys. Proud of you, all of you. Absolutely.